Business values should be felt, they should be experienced, and they should be standard. And what I mean by that is, if I'm going to hire a contractor in my business, I want to make sure that their values align with my company values. Welcome to the Master Your Business podcast, where we bring you the best in branding, marketing, and customer experience strategies. I'm Deirdre Martin, your host. And if you've been asking yourself how to level up your growing business, your marketing, your customer experience, or how to make more of an impact with your brand, this show is for you. You'll discover actionable tips and insights to help businesses just like yours gain clarity and illuminate the path to success. Train with industry experts, learn sales and marketing strategies, business and mindset hacks, and be inspired by authentic entrepreneurship stories. As your host, I share the no-nonsense advice that accelerated my journey from boring bank manager to industry thought leader in marketing and customer experience. Learn how I made the leap into the world of six-figure success, digital courses, keynote speaking, and co-authoring a #1 bestseller in just 1 year. Together with interviews from industry experts, this show ensures you're seen, heard, and hired by your ideal clients. Join our growing community of subscribers and let the Master Your Business podcast empower you to tackle your most significant challenges on your path to business success. Don't miss out. It's your turn to learn from the best and master your dream business. There are certain things in my business that I would absolutely fire one of my contractors over. There are certain things in my life that I would argue with people again for or over, because if it's a case that it goes against what I firmly believe to be important, if it's a case that it's something that I value, if it's a case that it's something that I just feel is plain wrong, I will argue with you. And I hate conflict. I'll avoid conflict at every possible opportunity if I can help it. But there's just sometimes where it just doesn't feel right. And that's what values are. And that you can have personal values, you can have business values. And actually, there's quite a big differentiation between both. When you're looking at what your personal values are, those are the types of things that you need to consider from, what's important to you in life? What's important to you in terms of your family? What are the things that make you feel good? What are the things that you would literally go to war over? Those are the kinds of things that I'm talking about. From a business perspective, they're quite different. And often, if you've got a personal brand, what you need to consider is, what are your personal values compared to what your business values are? And what I'm talking about is your personal values. For example, mine would be freedom, flexibility. I love to be able to pick up my laptop and go and work from wherever I want and, serve clients, take my laptop on holiday and not necessarily work on the beach, but, have a cocktail and work in a bar somewhere and serve clients, as opposed to in my business. That's not what's important within my business. Business values should be felt. They should be experienced, and they should be standard. And what I mean by that is, if I'm going to hire a contractor in my business, I want to make sure that their values align with my company values. The reason that this is so important is because they're not necessarily things that you can teach. If I'm going to have customers coming into my business, it's really important that my employees or contractors who are front of house and facing and meeting with my clients, that they're going to behave in a particular way. And I can teach them all of the technical skills. I can teach them the software. I can teach them all of the things that they need to do to deliver specific services, but I can't always teach them how. And the how comes back to their values. So if you were to look at personal values versus business values, the business values should be guiding principles, as I say, within the business. And what's great about both business and personal values is you can create like a value filter. And what I mean by that is, on the personal side, there could be certain things that you won't compromise on. And that could be honesty. It could be family. It could be how much time you take off in your business. It could be whatever. But those are things that become criteria for you personally. Whereas in your business, I like to look at business values from 3 different perspectives. And what I'm talking about here is, number one, is that business values are like guiding principles. So when you're hiring somebody, it's looking through what are the values that you have in your business and trying to ask questions of that person that you're bringing onto your team to determine whether those are values that come through. So if you have a value, for example, that could be, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head here. Maybe let's call it timeliness, right? So one of my clients, I was talking to him earlier today, and we were talking about punctuality and timeliness. And one of the things with this is I want to ask questions of that person related to that specific guiding principle to make sure that when they come in to my business, that they're going to demonstrate timeliness, because that's important to me. That's important to my clients. We need to be responsive and reply to questions, conversations, prompts, DMs, whatever, you name it, within a certain amount of time. And if they're the type of person who's not timely, well, then they're not the right fit for me. So it's a great way to filter whether this is somebody who already demonstrates that behavior before they come into my business. The second way to look at a value from a business perspective is from a customer perspective. So if it's a case that a customer has an interaction with your brand, every interaction is considered a touch point from a customer experience perspective. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that the customer feels that. We want the customer to say, every time I reached out to this company, to your company or whoever's company, that the response was timely, that I never had to wait, that I always got responded to within just a few minutes, that even when I asked for something that seemed like a big thing, that it was timely. And so it's demonstrable from a customer's perspective. So the first way I mentioned is from hiring employees to make sure you're getting the right people in. The second way I've mentioned is that it's a demonstrable behavior and experience that customers feel when they engage with your business. The third way to look at values is that when employees come into your team and you're doing maybe a performance review and somebody's saying, hey, I want a bonus, give me a pay rise, whatever it might be. A great way to consider values in that way is to make sure that your behaviors that you're looking for and your standards within your company or your business also reflect that timeliness to maintain with that example. So what I mean by this is when you're looking at performance reviews for even contractors, one of the things that you can do is you can explain to them the things that you want them to achieve. So those could be tangible results. It could be, this is what you need to achieve in sales. This is what you need to achieve in terms of business growth and whatever it might be. But how did you achieve it should be equally as important, because you don't want people doing things but in a way that doesn't align with you and in a way that doesn't align with your customers. It should all be a cohesive approach where you feel the integrity of your values has been maintained throughout your business engagement. So what I mean by this is at the end of review, people can say, yes, I responded to customers, we did this and we achieved all of the tangible goals, but that we've done it in the timely way. So I think that's what's really important. So 3 ways to look at it. So 1, as I say, is when you're recruiting people. 2 is a feeling and an experience that's demonstrable to customers, and customers can say, how did it feel to engage with that business? It was timely. And a 3rd way is that to keep people on track in terms of performance and behaviour with customers. So how do you figure out what your core values are? You can go on to Google and you can literally search values and you can produce lists of values that could have hundreds if not thousands of different types of values within them. And so values, they're not something you just place on a wall. They don't just go in the about section of your website. It's really important that they're actually things that you feel, they're ways that you behave. But as I said at the start, your personal values and your business values are very different. So what I want you to think about in this respect is Google. Literally go on to Google, print off a list of what all of those values are and circle maybe the top 10, right? Circle the top 10 and then narrow it down. Ideally for a company, you'll have somewhere between 3 and 6 values, no more and no less. And the goal is that you're thinking about what impact do you want to make and how can you use the values in the 3 ways I've already talked about. What I'd like you to do, once you've determined what those 3, 4, 5, 6 values are, is to write a sentence for each of them. So one is, this is a guiding principle. It's like a decision filter. If what we're doing in the business, if that next move that we make doesn't align with what our values are, why are we doing it? Why are we doing it? Like, seriously, you have to ask yourself that question. The second thing is to look at the value and think, okay, if I write the value in this way, would a customer relay that sentence back to me because it's something that they've witnessed or experienced or felt or has been demonstrated by me or my team? And the third way is, if I'm going to write this value on somebody's performance review or objectives at the start of the year, is that something that they can tangibly say or describe that they have behaved in that way? And what might that look like? So when you're looking at values and you're really trying to narrow them down, think about the impact. What is that impact? How will it look? How will it feel? And what's the tangible version of that? Can you give examples or list examples of what that might look like for somebody on your team? Because otherwise, it's high level stuff. It's out there in the ether and it's basically bullshit. So it needs to be totally tangible and something that they can say, yes, hey Deirdre, I'm on your team. This was something that we were absolutely able to achieve. Look at how we did it. This is how. Do you remember when we helped that client, that customer? And we did it, right? So that's what I'm talking about. It needs to be really practical and tangible, or else it's just high level bullshit. And that's a waste of time. That's the kind of stuff that people do stick on their walls in their companies. It's the kind of stuff that they do stick on their websites because somebody somewhere told them that that's what they should do. But that's just not good enough. If you want your business to stand out, if you want to disrupt and be different, those values are absolutely a way to do it. And that can be, it's the emotional experience. You know, and recently on the show we had Ian Golding, and Ian talked about experience. He talked about functionality, accessibility and emotions. So from a functionality perspective, he was referring to products and services. Accessibility, he's talking like Amazon one-click stuff, right? But from an emotional aspect, it's the experience, and the experience comes from the behaviours that you and your team have in your business and those feelings that people get, and not just whilst they're engaging with your business, but beforehand as well, and how they came to be in your business in the first place. So think about values holistically. Think about them in more ways than website, than something that goes on your wall. Think about them bigger than that. Okay, so once you're clear on what they are and you know how you're going to use them, how do you really start to integrate them and apply them? So one way is absolutely in your brand and your messaging and your marketing and what that might look like. So again, it can be a decision filter. It can be, okay, if we start talking about this in our marketing and messaging, what might that look like? So a fabulous brand I love to refer to, who are amazing when it comes to their values, is Patagonia. Right? Their values are sustainability and the climate, and everything that they do comes back to that. They want people to go out and purchase products, but not buy every new product that comes out because it's the latest trend or what have you. They use materials that are sustainable, and the profits that the company makes, they give back. And don't ask me to pronounce the CEO's name because I would just be making shit up if I was to do that. But ultimately, with the CEO, what he has done is all of the profits he's given back to the Amazonian rainforests, which is just so freaking cool. And that's a really great example of somebody who's demonstrating values. What I would say to add to that is their marketing and their messaging talks about that. They explain how they're demonstrating it, and they provide case studies. They talk to climate action, they talk to sustainability, and they bring that whole ethos of their values into their brand marketing and messaging. That's freaking cool, right? And so you can do the exact same in your business. And another great way to do this is to use things like client interactions and service delivery and break them down by way of like a case study. So if a value of yours is, one of mine is clarity. And it's not just clarity in helping clients get clear on different things within their business. It's also me being really clear on what the fuck am I doing every day in my business, added to, how clear am I being? How transparent am I being internally? Like, I've got 7 contractors who work with me and they all say to me, Deirdre, you're the most freaking transparent person we've ever met in my life, right? I'm like, that's so cool. That's the kind of relationship I want to have. There's no hidden doors. There's no secrets. Everything is on the table, quite literally. And that's cool. And so clarity for me, if I'm talking in my business, in my marketing, and I'm given a case study, the case study could be literally showing and demonstrating where the client got clarity, where we were clear, maybe how we were transparent. I'm being transparent here right now, telling you about this clarity piece in my business, right? So it's literally being upfront and explaining the things that are important to you in your business and the guiding principles that you have, but maybe in ways that you haven't thought about before. Does that make sense? Let me know. You can send me comments and let me know afterwards. Another way that you can integrate the values into your business and brand is to think about team and leadership styles. Really, that's culture. That's culture within your business. And so as a person and individual, we tend to have multiple values, like way more than 4 or 6. But when we're looking at things from a business perspective and we've got people who are leading teams and doing different things, we need to be mindful of what our personal values are separate to the company's values. And what I mean by this is, if you think about it, freedom and flexibility might be important to me. But if I'm working in a bigger company and I have to be at my desk at 9 o'clock every day and I'm there till 5 or 6, how does that affect the others in the team? So freedom and flexibility are important to me personally. But from a business perspective, those personal values don't always align. And so from a cultural perspective, it is about trying to bring it in a way where it's a sackable offence not to comply with this value. And that's why when you incorporate the values into the interview process of people who you bring into your team and you have them as objectives or end of year review key indicators, it helps make sure that the culture is aligned in the right way. But also, it's still important to break down what these things mean and make sure that everybody's aware of it. So when you maybe bring in a new team member, that you have a way of explaining this. And a lot of you will have worked in a corporate organisation before, and when you join a new company and they send you off on a week's induction or a day's induction or a month's induction, whatever was relevant, even as a solopreneur, if you're bringing in somebody for the first time in your business, knowing this shit, oh my gosh, it's going to make such a difference to you and the people who come on to your team in future. Because what I've seen happen more than once is that as a business grows, the experience dilutes. And the reason the experience dilutes is because the individual has all of these things in here. They're in here and they're in here. And I'm pointing to my head, my heart, right? They're in your head, they're in your heart. But what's happening is you're not always able to communicate what they are because you've never taken the time to stop and reflect on these things. But actually, it's those things that are in your heart and in your head that make you as good as you are. Those are the things and the reasons why your customers come back to you. Those are the reasons why customers want to work with you in the first place. So to get them to come back repeatedly, how do you do that? You do it by articulating what those values are and making sure that everybody who comes into your business is really clear on it. Okay. And the final thing I would say is to do with the products and services. So again, from a customer experience perspective, just like Ian Golding said, we've got function, accessibility, and emotion. So from a function perspective, how do you bring values into that? And function is products or services. So most of you listening are service providers. If you want to bring in something like, I don't know why, I've got timeliness and transparency in my brain right now. I'm stuck on the letter T. If it's a case that you're bringing in a new value into your business, let's say it's respect, okay? And you might think, oh, you take it for granted that everybody is respectful to clients, but that's not always the case. I've had clients who've told me they've got people coming in on their team and they couldn't give a shit about customers. They don't care. They're just there for their paycheck. And that's a tough pill to swallow, especially if you're a business owner and you've got this reputation to maintain and you really care about your customers. Respect then needs to be a value if you feel that that's what's important and that's what needs to be demonstrated and that's what needs to be experienced. So from a product perspective, what does that look like and how can you ingrain that emotion into that service, right? So when I say product, I'm talking about you packaging up your service and then it becomes a product. So how do you do that? What does that look like? As I said, there's like thousands of values. Respect is probably the worst example I could have chosen. Well, let me think of another one. Maybe it's accessibility is the value, right? And accessibility does come up. Accessibility is how easy is it to do this? How easy is it to get it? And that could be making things simple. So it's up to you to figure out what is the value and how can you make somebody who's purchased that product or service feel. How can you make them feel that and experience it throughout the lifetime of them having that product or service? So most of you, when you engage with a client, it's not they come in, they buy, they're in, they're gone and done. It's not that. It's not a transactional type thing. Most of you have types of services where the relationship tends to go on for a time. When that happens, how can you maintain that experience and that value all the way throughout? What are the parameters that you need to abide by? Do you have a checklist that you can implement to make sure that you're abiding by these values? And that's actually where planning out a customer journey can be really helpful. So in terms of thinking about that, I would suggest that you stop, take some time, do your Google search, and start with figuring out what your values are going to be, and then working out how you're going to implement and apply them into your business going forward. Okay, folks, that's it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Master Your Business podcast. I've talked to you everything about values today. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Do share with me if you've got any questions or queries in relation to values, and you know what to do. Please leave a rating if you found this show, an episode helpful. Leave us a review if you're listening in on Apple. And make sure to subscribe to future episodes. Thank you so much. And until next time, keep mastering your business.